Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Chicken Box. I'm your host Jay. Solo show today, but we've got a great interview lined up. Today we're going to be talking to Aunica Miles. Aunica Miles is an author, youth advocate, speaker, former foster youth, wife, mother, and community leader committed to helping young people understand their beginning does not dictate their end. Aunica entered foster care at the age of 14 after experiencing family separation, instability, trauma, rejection, and circumstances that left her without a secure place to call home. During her time in the foster care system, she experienced more than 20 placements and struggled with loneliness, abandonment, anxiety, anger, homelessness, abuse, grief, and periods of hopelessness. Even during the most difficult moments of her life, she held on to the belief that her circumstances were temporary and that her story was not over. Aunica is the author of He Has His Hand on Me, a personal testimony of faith, trauma, resilience, healing, and transformation, and Saving Our Children, We Must Stand in the Gap, a call for parents, mentors, educators, churches, employers, community organizations, and public leaders to take an active role in protecting and guiding the next generation. Her current mission is the Baltimore Youth Call to Action, an initiative created to encourage young people ages 16 to 25 who may be affected by violence, foster care, homelessness, grief, family instability, unhealthy relationships, mental health challenges, or the lack of opportunity. The initiative's central message is your beginning does not dictate your end. So, Aunica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be on this show today.
Excellent. So, you have a very storied past. And so I want to kind of jump into what got you to where you are today under those circumstances. As I read, you entered the foster care system at 14 and you experienced 20 different placements. For people who have never been in that system, what does that level of instability actually feel like in the mind of a teenager?
In the mind of a teenager, that instability definitely feels like, I would say, a very dark place. Not able to see what is next, or a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of rejection and feeling of abandonment. Um, it generates just in not knowing what is coming next, what's going to happen, or even why am I here, as to even thought as to what is the purpose for my existence.
Right. Um, I mean, I at least from my perspective, and you've been in the system, and I have not. Is it common for kids to go in at 14? I mean, that's got to be pretty rare, right? I mean, most kids kind of start in the foster care system much younger.
Well, there are different cases that causes children to get into the system, and which would happen at various ages. Sometimes maybe a death of a family member, or abuse that has just came out. Sometimes it's early on, and sometimes it's later on. But I wouldn't really say there's a set age for children to go into the systems. Life circumstances and situations happen at various times that also could be at different ages and stages of a child's life that can cause them to go into the system.
Okay. One of the things that I read that I think is really powerful is this idea that even in these kind of darkest moments that you had, you felt like these circumstances were temporary. Where did that belief come from, where everything around you, especially at the age of 14, is kind of telling you, like, after 20 placements, or in the middle of those 20 placements, this is what your circumstances are always going to be? Like, what kind of possessed you to think, you know what, this is temporary, I'm going to kind of get through this?
What possessed me? I didn't lose hope in, to be honest, God. I didn't lose hope in that. I prayed a lot. I always just had to, I just tried to hold on to the fact that this was going to change no matter how bad it got and no matter what it looked like. Because there's different times that it looked very bad. Some of my placements were like lockdown facilities and stuff, and you're just in a cubicle, a room that look like a cell. You're dealing with staff members stating that nobody is coming for you, nobody cares. And so I just didn't, I knew if I couldn't, and then to be honest, if I knew if I couldn't die, I had to live. And so I refused to die while I was alive. And so I just continued to press on and hold on to that one day is going to change. This is not going to be it. And this is not going to be it.
Wow. And I mean, so you age out at 18, is that correct?
No, I aged out at 21.
At 21. Okay. So during that time, during all of those placement changes, like it's basically kind of starting over, right? I mean, you're trying to figure out who do you trust, who you not trust for obvious reasons. Like, how did that shape you as an adult when you kind of look back at those? I mean, it's pretty traumatic experiences to say the least. So how does that help, or like, how does that affect the way you interact with others and things like that, as far as trust issues and what have you?
Well, that definitely did shape it a lot because it was hard to build connections and lasting relationships due to the fear of the connections not lasting. And that was something that I developed when I was younger. You know, a lot of placements couldn't get through to me and really considered me as a high risk youth because they couldn't even understand how to help me. But because of my fear of attachment and the fear of you're going to be gone the next day, I couldn't even let them in because I knew the pain that I felt. And I knew that I didn't want to feel that pain no more. And so it was hard for them to even get through to me as I was younger because I was guarded and I didn't want to be hurt. And so as I got older, it was hard for me to have relationships with people. It was hard for me to go to places and develop relationships with people because I always had in the back of my mind that they were going to leave. I always had it in the back of my mind that this was not going to last or I was going to do something that caused them to give up on me, or I was going to they was going to see who I really was and left me. It had a major impact on my relationships. That it made some of them even toxic. And the very thing that I feared, it seemed like I subconsciously created those atmospheres and those things in my relationships due to my fear, not realizing that I was sabotaging relationships, or not realizing that due to my fear, I'm creating the very thing that I'm scared of just because it's easier for me to do it than to allow somebody else to do it to me.
Yeah, sort of rejecting before being rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, that actually is kind of dovetails right into actually where I wanted to go, which is at 25, you got married, right? Or you were married at 25. And so I'm interested to know how that relationship happened, right? Because, you know, that's like the ultimate trust is to get married. You know, that's difficult for everybody. And then you're coming with all of this other trauma behind it, like as you talked about, you know, trying to just make connections and keep them. So I'm curious about that. And also then you expanded your own family to 5 children, where clearly you took in some kids who were about to enter the foster care system. And at 25, you had just kind of come out of this. So it's like, cool, I've escaped this level of trauma. Let me go back and kind of pull people before they go into that. Like, that to me is really a huge crux of your story, is to kind of reach back and try to, you know, pull people up. So I know that's a lot of questions, but like, can you just kind of talk about those 2 situations specifically?
Yes. So I got in a relationship with my husband at 25, but he was not my husband yet at that time. Okay. We got married 2 years later after that. Now, the same year me and my husband did get together, we did get custody of my siblings. And trying to figure out, merge all this together, I cannot say that at that time I was completely out of my trauma. I cannot at all. It seemed like it was it was, when I say, oh my goodness, it
Yeah.
felt like reliving trauma, to be honest with you, because just getting out of that situation, meaning just getting out of foster care and trying to still develop my own self. And I have two little kids of my own, and my husband had his niece at the time, trying to still figure ourselves out and still myself for as an individual as to how do I get out of this mindset that I am in. It was a journey, and I'm gonna honestly say it was a journey, and that until I developed a relationship with God, that was the true breaking point on the true connection to my healing that I caused, like that changed my life drastically. And I can say drastically because I never thought that the hole or the void was able to be filled. I never thought that I can help or help others in the way that I wish somebody could have probably been able to help me, or even been able to be in a better example from what I knew, or what my beliefs of the world was. And so when I truly accepted God and asked him to help me, when I say my life changed, my marriage changed, it got better. It was no longer like crazy or going at each other or anything, but understanding the children, everything. That when I say the change that you saw was true peace that I never saw in my life going to be this way. I never saw any of the way that I'm going even possible. I never even thought it possible. And so the path that I'm on, it amazes me every day. It amazes me because the transformation that happened and everything that happened from the inside. Because, oftentimes we have to heal on the inside, and not understanding that we carry those pains with us as baggage, not because we don't even understand what is wrong in the inside. But when all that unraveled and everything came out, it's like my connections are not toxic. There's no sabotage. There's no it's peace. Everything is peace. It's not feeling like the younger siblings took anything from me, but also even knowing how to give them what really helped me to set me free, and to really help me to understand that my beginning did not dictate my end, that it looked very bad. It looked extremely, extremely, extremely bad. You say it was very shocking that I was married, and then I would have gotten a divorce if God did not help me. That would have been you understand what I'm saying? With that amount of trauma and that amount of pain and not able to build connections, you spill that out to other people, looking for other people to heal what only one person was able to heal. Right. And so when I say that the transformation and everything that has happened from the internal healing, from just inviting God in, you would not even begin to imagine, even in my siblings' lives right now, even in the other, it's the path. It is not what it even looked like in the beginning. And so I'm grateful that I didn't give up. I'm grateful that I held on, because it really built character. It helped me to understand how to help other people, how to help the children, because they're hurting.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I mean, look, I think anybody who does the type of I don't want to say work, because that feels like an occupation, you know what I mean? Like this is something far beyond that. But anybody who does what you did, I think are deserve a lot of credit. And especially, people foster kids and adopt kids and things like that. But I think it's very different when you've been through that system, and then to go back into it to kind of pull some kids out of it. I think it's just that's a different level, especially at the age you were, because I remember when I was 25, and I have a daughter now, but I just imagine trying to raise, whether it would be siblings or my own children at 25. I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea, right? Like me at 25, absolutely not. And so for you to do that, after going through all those years of that, I mean, that is really a testament to who you are as a person. So I think you should give a lot of credit to yourself as well here, you know. And I understand your you know, obviously your inspiration and sort of the religious aspects of it, but I think that is incredibly important. But I also think you going through that yourself to be able to go, you know what, I am going to go back into this. I think that's I really do. I think that's quite remarkable. Um, so it was your siblings that you went in and pulled them out of the system, like your direct siblings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Am I reading that? Um, so okay, let's talk about the Baltimore Youth Call to Action, because this is what you're working on now. This is kind of your bread and butter at this point, which is taking your personal story and kind of expanding this out, which I think is incredibly important. Baltimore is dealing with youth violence, poverty, school instability. These are, you know, I grew up in Baltimore. These are all things that have always been there, unfortunately, and generational trauma simultaneously. What is the thread that kind of runs through all of that people aren't talking about enough? These people who are in power, that you're kind of like, hey, wake up. This stuff is, you know, this stuff is very serious. Because I do think a lot of people just go, yes, there's poverty. Yes, there's violence. Yes, there's instability. But they are kind of just things they say. And so you've come from, you know, some aspects of this. Like, what is the thing that you think they're missing?
They're missing involvement. They're missing action. It's time to do something about it. We all know what it's been. We all know what is happening, and it's time to now act. It's time to now all get together. It's time to now get into the schools. It's time to get into everywhere that you can to host events, to host programs, to make it a top priority to let these children know that they are not alone, that we are with them, and they don't have to go through this alone, that we see them. Oftentimes they don't the youth don't feel seen, and they don't feel heard, and they feel overlooked. And so it's time for us to let them know that we see you, we feel you, we understand what you are experiencing. We understand the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of rejection, the feeling of abandonment, the feeling of not even understanding what is going on. And so sometimes when they don't understand, they're generating rage, they're generating anger, and because it's irrational, they are not able to think rationally because they cannot process what they are going through, because they can't understand it. And when we can't understand it, our actions is a reflection to our lack of understanding. And so they are killing each other. They are causing riots in malls. They're just they're losing it because they can't understand that their beginning does not dictate their end. And it's our job to let them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that this is not it. What your circumstances is, what you're going through, what your house situation is like, whatever you are thinking, whatever you're experiencing, this is not it. This is temporary. This is temporary, and this is something that can be changed. And helping them to understand that we are supporting them, and that we see that this is something that can be, we know that this is something that can be changed, to speak life into the situation, to tell them, and that this is what I see that needs to happen with the community leaders, with the churches, with everybody, the parents, everybody coming together will make a substantial change. Not just talking about the issues that happen, not just focusing on the negativity, but sitting there saying, you know what, let's get together, let's do something about this. That's the action that needs to happen for us to reach the children, because our children needs to be our allies and not our enemies. And right now they are rampaging like our enemies.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Yeah, you took people to church a little bit there. I like it. Yeah, and you know, if you're listening or you're watching this, I mean, I can feel your level of passion for this, right? And you know, again, your story obviously lends to that. But I think having such a passion for not letting these young people just kind of fall through the cracks, and then we go 10 years later, you're like, oh, some like 30-year-old dude who's just sitting on a stoop, and you're like, they never did anything. It's like, but we didn't help them when they were 16, right? And it's like those kind of things. You're right. Your beginning does not dictate your end. That's absolutely correct. At the same time, if you don't help people, they get stuck. And if they get stuck, then, you are unfortunately kind of dooming them to a situation that is not favorable to them. So your initiative targets, very specifically, your initiative targets young people 16 to 25. What's the difference between the needs of a 16-year-old and a 25-year-old? Because it's a very specific time frame of kids. Why that time frame? It's actually probably a better question.
Why that time frame? And it seemed like it may even be going a little lower, but the exposure is at a rampage right now. And they are at that age, they're transitioning to young adulthood, and in a stage of where they need to be able to be productive citizens, to be able to stand on their own, to be able to process rationally, to be able to make better decisions, because at that age, but it's seeming like a lot younger, but starting with that age also may help going down a little bit more, but starting there, because that's a lot of the influences right now. That's also who are influencing the younger ones. You understand what I'm saying? It's we mimic what we see. And so if we can help them to be able to guide them into the transition and the role of young adulthood, and what to expect and how to process and how to deal with it, and how to know, like, okay, well, the step by step, I believe that will make a substantial change.
So, okay, so we talked your previous book, Standing in the Gap. What does that look like in practical terms, right? Between, my guess is, well, actually, can you define what that means for you, standing in the gap, and what does that look like practically?
Standing in the gap, not giving up. Standing in the gap looks like, we are oftentimes consumed with our own situations and day-to-day lives, that our children are overlooked and really not given the attention that they need. And we expect them to just know how to go out here and do things, because with the age as they're growing, we're thinking this thing is essential, but it's not essential. It has to be taught. And so standing in a gap looks like taking that time out to discuss with your child what is going on with them. How are they thinking? How are they processing? How is their day going? Who are they interacting with? Speaking life into them, helping them in the areas that you're seeing that they're struggling, and not just turning a blind eye to it. Not just, well, I'm tired today, I just went to work all day. It's not, no, it's actually standing in the gap, being what they need, and not just letting it go. That's what that looks like, not letting it go. That, and doing whatever you can to speak life and to help them understand, because we can see what's going on with our children. If you look at them, you can see if something is bothering them. You can see if something's wrong. You can see if they're not thinking in the right headspace. You can see that. So let's not ignore it. Let's do something. Let's not ignore it. I do understand that there's some children that are more angrier or more hard to get through to, but let's figure out a way to meet them where they are, not just hands off completely, because we are quick with the hands off. And it's like the world has went to virtual learning, but it's really virtual learning in everything in life. No life skills being taught, no how to make it, how to process. Because we as adults get angry. We as adults get upset. We as adults go through emotions and things that we don't understand. And so stand in the gap. Let's discuss it with our child, because then they understand how to process, how to get through, how it does. You don't have to react off of this emotion. This is really not how it looks. It may look like this, but it can be better. That's what standing in the gap means. Not hands on, not hands off.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of times what people, there's always like a good amount of rhetoric, right? Oh, we're going to help these young people. We're going to, we're going to stand by them and things like that. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. I certainly have. And then it's like, okay, let's go down and like talk to young people. And then it starts to get like, they're not going to listen. And then there's like a million excuses and you're like, but they should. And then you kind of slide out of the scene and do nothing. And then you're waiting for other people to step up. So, okay, the Baltimore Youth Call to Action. Have you sat down with these organizations, like these churches and employers and things like that? What are you doing like directly where it's like this is how we're making this happen?
I have reached out to some officials and waiting to hear some responses. I've given them my thoughts and what I believe, and waiting to hear some thoughts back. I'm waiting for the response back because it's needed.
Right. And I'm sure those kind of things are slow, right? To as you're kind of dragging people and organizations kicking and screaming into like actually helping young people.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to slide back a little bit to the foster care system. Do you think that it's designed to kind of stabilize Black children, or do you think it's just another source of trauma? Right, because I know a lot of people have sort of a love-hate relationship with the foster care system. Obviously, it's trying to do right, but what has been your direct experience in that?
It's another source of trauma. There is no do right in it. There is no do right in it. There
right,
is the workers that work in there. They're traumatizing. They're traumatizing. The things that they say to you because they know there's nobody coming for you is traumatizing. The things that they call restraining you, but it's harming you, traumatizing. They provoke you, and it's like creating monsters. The foster care system is designed to create monsters, designed to weaponize children, and in my opinion, to keep the jails filled up, to keep things happening in the world the way it is. This is all a domino effect. This is geared to, and this is my thoughts because right, it's not geared to help you. It's not geared to help you there. And what help do you get when you are often told that you're a burden? Or and what help do you get when you put children in homes and then sit there and say, well, we gave you these qualifications, but then you monetize them. So you're worth this amount of money when they're on medicine. And if they're not on medicine, so then I had this issue that they tried to put me on medicine. But I recognized when I was younger that the medicine was causing me to act in a certain way, like I had no control over myself. And I tried to tell the adults this, but they didn't listen to me. So when I became 18, I went and found my own doctor and I gave them the list of medicine that they tried to put me on. The doctor said all these medicine work against each other. They are not even supposed to be given with each other. So while we're having kids acting irate and like uncontrollable, these medicines is affecting them. But you're worth more money in a foster care system on medication. This is money. This is money. And so it's traumatizing. So you see what when they say, well, we can't get through to this child, or you can't, like how you get hooked on drugs. Some of the medicine makes you high. Some of the medicine make you sleep. So it's like they're putting things inside of you that you cannot be functional. You cannot even think appropriately or even rationally. And then they sit there and say, well, the child is acting this, but not disclosing. Well, we gave them this and this and this. Because in order for a family to take them, we need them to be worth more money. But we have affected the chemical imbalance inside of them. That's not disclosed. That's how the jails, everybody continue to keep moving. Yeah,
no, look, I hear you. I definitely understand. I mean, it is, I don't want to get too political about it, but yeah, there is there is certainly an aspect of monetary involvement in that system that I think is a real detriment. So, I mean, I can't personally speak to the medication aspects of it, but what I would say, if money is a driver for people to foster kids, then it will always be a driver over the health of children, right? The mental health or the physical health of children. What are your thoughts? And this is a huge question. So, if you're like, hey, I've never thought about it, it's cool, not a big deal. What do you think a good alternative would be to the system that you have? Is it a full gut and reform of the system and not make it monetarily centric, or is there something else that you've thought about to say, you know what, there's a better way to do this?
There is
so I don't want to put you. I don't want to try. I don't want to try to put you on the spot. But I was just curious.
There is a better way to do this. There's a real better way to do this. What that way is, it starts. I wouldn't say gutting out, but I would say weeding out, restructuring, recreating, rebuilding. I wouldn't gut out, but I will change. It's a lot of players involved that it's kind of a hard place to say, where can you start from?
Sure.
Because it's just it's so many hands involved in one child's life. When you're in a foster care system, you have a judge, you have a attorney, you have sometimes a CASA, you have a lot of different things. You have a lot of different things. There are a lot of different players involved in a one child's case. So where can you start? It's you start with more morality and ethics. You start with character, like in the individuals that has access to these children. We all know who's right and wrong. We all know who has the right motives and who don't. I think that will be first, starting from the top, then to the bottom, and then you can. But that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a hard thing to do, because it's you gotta. If the top is bad, everything is gonna be bad. It's gonna how you gonna. But if you can get everybody in alignment, and are we really trying to help these kids? What are we trying to do here? What is the mission and what is the goal? Because to be honest, they're saying, well, we remove them from this situation because it's not beneficial for them. But then what situation are you putting them in?
That's correct. That's correct. I find it curious that people don't have sort of, I guess, a lot of sort of like faith organizations and what have you are sort of tied to the foster care system, like on the outside, like maybe they're helping, kids, get acclimated and things like that, that there isn't sort of more of a human-centric view of foster care in the country. I find it to be personally very odd. But I want to talk about your book, He Has His Hands on Me, which is described as a testimony of faith, trauma, resilience, and transformation. For young people who are in the middle of this sort of situation right now, and faith feels like a foreign concept to them, like, what do you say to them?
Sometimes, when with kids that are in this situation, they want to know that you understand what they're going through by the fact that sometimes, have you experienced this? And when you've experienced it, they can relate to you, and they have more, they're more open to hearing you, because when you're speaking to them, you can even explain to them the emotions that they're feeling without them telling you. And so therefore, which gives them, they're become attentive to what you're saying, because they want a way out. They want to know you care. They want to know, is this it? Because in their mind, they're really seeing that this it, but understanding that somebody that was in your situation and can even, it gives a little details of some things that has happened, and how when you read that book and you see some of the things, they can relate to the children, and it's some of the things that they're experiencing, some of the trauma that they have experienced, and to see that I can still become somebody.
Right.
This is not it for me.
Right.
I don't have to stay in my mind in this dark place. I don't have to feel abandoned on my life. I don't have to feel rejected, like I'm not gonna be somebody. I don't have to go to with these group of friends to just get an acceptance and affect myself more, but I could be accepted somewhere else. That's really more better. There's a future. Because sometimes you have to speak to the hurt. You gotta speak to the pain because they don't understand there's purpose in the pain. There's purpose in what you're experiencing, but it's not meant to kill you. It's more, it's it's not gonna kill you. And that's what they don't understand, because sometimes that pain that you feel in that system and going through that as a child, it's like deep pain into your soul that you can't even articulate into words to the adults around you, because especially if the adults around you don't even understand what you're saying or have been numb to their pain. Adults sometimes are numb to their pain, which therefore is hard for them to relate, because I would say most people have been through a lot of traumatic situations and have a story. A lot of people have a story, but some adults, the way that they have decided to handle it is numbing it. And by numbing it, it becomes, it's like a removal from it, like in the conscious aspect. And so for the child, if we're able to speak to the pain, able to tell them this, I understand this hurts. I understand you feel this brokenness inside of you. I understand you don't feel a connection with nobody. I understand that what happened to you really broke your spirit, really hurt your heart. I understand it, but I'm telling you, it gets better. I'm telling you, this is not it. And I'm telling you, there's a light at the end of that tunnel. I'm telling you, that's how you get through to them. And so when you say in the weakness of the faith, because at the end of the day, those children really do want help. They really do want help. But the trust has been broken. And trust with the adults that's around them, they don't trust. And that's one of the first things we learn as a baby when we're born, to learn to trust our parents. So when there's a brokenness in that, then how do we trust the adults that they have a genuine heart to really want to help us? How can we connect with them? Because how can we decipher that when that trust factor has been? And so it's restoring that trust factor. And so restoring that trust factor is speaking to that pain and showing them that you see them by your actions, not just your words, but your actions match your words, that I'm with you and I'm not against you. And that's how you reach that faith. Because at the end of the day, oftentimes hard to talk somebody into something. But if they can witness you living it out, that you've been through this and you now doing this, it will go that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a super powerful point. I really do. Yeah, you're the core of your message, which is like your beginning is not your end. Like I try to think about like what is a way to convince young kids who are going through this that that's true, right? It's a great statement, but without sort of a practical thing behind it, like your story, other people's story. People go, yeah, I know, my life will get great, like but they're in it, so they can't see past sort of what's right in front of them until you come and tell your stories and things like that, and you connect with them, and they go, oh, here is a real person that has gone through what I have. I think that is such a powerful moment for kids, because it's like you go to kids and you say, you can be the president, like when I was a kid, right? You can do anything you want in the world. You could be president of the United States. Well, as a little black kid, I'm like, I've never seen that. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, sure, you could say it, but you don't see it. And then I just think about like my daughter or other, young black kids seeing Barack Obama become president. And so it no longer becomes just these words. There is a real person behind it. It's like, you could become president. They go, he looks like me. I could become president. Right. Like, so in your story, right, your story is quite powerful because it's like, oh, you are not just talking as a person who's like wants to reform the foster care system, but you went through it. You weren't in it for 9 minutes. You were in it for a number of years. And so those direct experiences and what it is like to live on the same side that they were on, and you made it out. So I think your story is really powerful. And so, I was just thinking, like, who are some other people who have gone through that system that other people can go, oh, I didn't know that, right? So I was just looking up, famous people who have gone, that their story in the beginning is not their story in the end. Nelson Mandela went through the foster care system, right? Malcolm X, Maya Angelou was in kinship care. I mean, and these are just some people that a lot of people just did not realize. Grandmaster Flash, right? Just celebrities and entertainers, obviously famous musicians and things like that, where people go, well, if they can make it, maybe I can make it, that type of thing, right? And like, I just didn't know that. And I think a lot of people, when they start to learn these stories and understand that foster care is not the end of your story, it is, maybe it's the beginning of your story, maybe it's just a temporary part of the middle of your story, but it's not the end of your story. I think allows these kids to kind of have some aspect of like the light at the end of the tunnel that you were talking about. So I really do appreciate the story that you have, and I'm sure you've been told that a lot. But I would like to say, like, I just think that your story is incredibly powerful, and you going back and kind of not just pulling the ladder up and then moving forward, but trying to then help people to not go through maybe the same hardships you went through, or to help them realize that even if they're going through them, you can come out the other end of this in an incredibly positive way. I think it's powerful. And I think those kind of personal stories are really what makes differences.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that's going to be my soapbox moment, or getting on the box moment. So I'm going to allow you to tell people, what do you want to leave people with through your programs, your books? You've got the stage.
What I want to leave people with is, as the way to stand in the gap, because how you just said, some people may not have went through those situations. Just speak life. Just speak life to them. Just speak into them. We oftentimes we're highlighting the negative or stuff like that, but you can connect with a child when you speak life to them, when you tell them they are great, when you tell them speak life and not death. And that is a way we will be able to stand in the gap for the children. That the tongue is very powerful, and we don't understand the words that we speak have a lot of weight and can build up and can tear down. And in the aspect of a child, what we speak can either build them up or tear them down. And so, what is the goal? If we want to stand in the gap, we want a call to action. We want everybody to come together. We can start with speaking life into the children. Speak in life, and you will see a change in them. Don't not speak death, you speak life, and watch the words that you come out to your mouth to children. Watch what you say to them. Watch what you do to them. Watch what you tell them that they are. You can't tell them that they're not nothing. You can't tell them that they're gonna be is what they've always done. Can't tell them that. Because when you tell them something, they believe it. They really believe it, and they hold on to it, and they hide it in their heart. So that's what I want people to take out of this when I say, with the book, He Has His Hands on Me, your beginning doesn't dictate your end. And saving our children, we must stand in the gap. We stand in the gap. We bridge that gap by speaking life. And that's what I would leave for everybody on this show, and what I want everybody to take out of this. In order for a call to action to take place, we can start with the words that we speak out of our mouth. Our children are our future, and they have to be our allies and not our enemies.
Well, I think you said it as plainly as it can be said. So, Aunica, I really appreciate, again, I appreciate your time. Aunica Miles, author, former foster youth, and I think a powerful youth advocate. So check out her Baltimore call to action. I think it's an incredibly powerful work that you're doing, and we appreciate your time. So that is it for our episode this week. So, Aunica, thank you. And we will see you
Thank
guys
you.
next time on the Chicken Box.